All right, here we are live here once again with the Quantum Money Activation Show. I'm your host, Matthew, here with my faithful co-host, Malik Amir. We are equally co-hosts, equally hosts, hosting this wonderful journey and conversation into the quantum realm of money activation from a quantum perspective. Because why? Well, money is energy. So if we talk about it from the perspective of what it actually is versus what it's been purported to be, what we've been conditioned to believe that it is, then we are no longer held by any sort of chains or bonds to it. We are no longer held by the limitations that have been set up in our past conditioning around the topic of money. And so thus what happens is you bust through your money blocks and manifest more abundance. So that's exactly the topic we'll be touching on today for this episode over the next 30 minutes. In this particular episode, number 6, we're going to be talking about poverty consciousness versus the abundance mindset. And this is your topic, Malik. So why don't you kick it off? What is the distinction between poverty consciousness and the abundance mindset?
In my opinion, I think that, a person that has a poverty consciousness, there's someone that's always being in that state where they're just in that state where they seem like they're in not enoughness, right? Where they're always lacking, they're always complaining, they're kind of like in a victimhood mindset. There's always a reason for why they didn't get the success that they wanted to have. They make excuses for themselves, and they're just typically not the people that really go for their goals, right? And this happens to a lot of people. A lot of people don't even realize it, that they're actually in a poverty consciousness. And it's something that we always have to analyze and just, be very aware of, like, what we say, what we feed our consciousness, and what we're actually putting into ourselves, because ultimately whatever we consume, it becomes a part of us. So it doesn't really matter if it's like the people around you that have some type of, like, poverty consciousness, that can rub off on you as well. If you're hanging around people that are always negative, that are always talking about how they don't have money, they're in a state of lack, they're broke, and they just complain, they nag, and they just never do anything about it, right? And most of the people that have this poverty consciousness, they love to spend money, but they don't like to save money. They're not people who invest or anything like that. And this is the typical signs of people that actually have this poverty consciousness.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, in terms of really breaking it down, because when we just view the media or go through school and we kind of see ourselves, and I grew up sort of like middle class-ish, lower class in some respect. Depends, where I was, but my mom grew up. She was as I grew up with my mom, is like survival mode with her, and she definitely had the poverty consciousness going on in a lot of ways. But then my dad, who they divorced, was doing well financially. So I kind of had like a little bit of both. So I was fortunate in that respect. But the idea here is, how do you really view that poverty consciousness from a place of compassion? Because often, when I look at my past and I see, wow, that was like not the right way to be brought up, not the right way to view reality. People that view the world from a place of victimhood, like they need to be changed or they need to change their mind. There's something wrong with them. And, the more you realize, it's like, it's not about changing them or even necessarily educating them. I mean, some don't want to be educated, but what it really boils down to is having compassion for where they're at. And for those that want assistance, of course, we've got the Quantum Elite community, we've got the Vault, we've got the ability for people to educate themselves with everything they could possibly need to transform and build a business online. And be part of a community to support them all the way through it. But some people don't want that. Some people are growing up in scarcity mode. And so what do? We can't make them wrong. I mean, if they don't want to collaborate, if they don't want to grow the revenue, if they don't want to become more educated on anything. And, this could apply for people that maybe they're, doing somewhat well financially, but they're not willing to take it to the next level, or they're not willing to do what it would take to take it to the next level, which ultimately means giving up some form of their self-identity, giving up being the hero, giving up being that, one person, one-stop shop, which some people thrive on that. They love that. And I've gone through that process as well of like shedding those layers of being special and, being significant or being the star. And, I think we all go through that in our own unique way as we evolve through life. But once you recognize like it doesn't actually work, and that in order for me to evolve to the next level, I'm going to have to, be supportive to others and become all loving and all giving in the purest form, which is, what the masters demonstrated to us. So whether you're talking about Master Jesus or Prophet Muhammad or Krishna or Buddha, they all achieved a really high level of being all giving, the high willingness to give. And then they also had the grace to receive. So it wasn't about being a martyr, right? They also got everything they needed from source through others in most cases, because, most things aren't just manifesting out of thin air, although that, could potentially happen. But for the most part, everything we receive is coming from another human being. But when we're willing to give to other human beings, that's when we open up that vessel to receive. And that's probably where we switch over to the abundance mindset. So what are your thoughts about that side of things, Malik?
Yeah, so the abundance mindset is where, a person is always in a state that, they have all of the things that they need at any given time, right? Because when you have that connection with the source, like you mentioned, some of the greats like, Jesus Christ or Prophet Muhammad, these people, they were tapped in with the source, and they knew that there was unlimited abundance at all times that they could access, right? And, a person that has an abundance mindset, they're in that state of mind where they know this, right? And also they take actions to make things happen, right? So like in our day and age, we're not living in those times, but our day and age, a person that has that abundance mindset is someone that's always trying to be self-educated, someone who's financially literate, right? Someone who, makes their money work for them rather than working for money, right? And it's really easy to do, but you just have to get yourself trained up and just realize that there's so many different avenues that you can use to actually create more revenue. But it's all about that mindset that you have, because a person that has a scarcity or a poverty consciousness, they might have the means to do things, but they're scared. They're afraid to take risks. They make up excuses and things like that. Whereas a person that has an abundance mindset, they think about the victory. They think about the potential to win, right? Whenever they go into a business venture or they go into a new investment or something like that. And I think it's the mindset that really makes people win or lose. And whether you have that right mindset or you don't depends on yourself and how educated you are, how much you like to persevere, and how much you kind of go against the grain, because world has definitely conditioned us to have a poverty mindset, and I definitely grew up with it myself, and I was passed down that same mindset, and I think it's probably been going on from generation to generation. So the first step is working on your own mindset and getting yourself in that state of mind where you can prime your brain every single day, where you can say positive things about, the abundance that's coming in your direction, and know that it's coming in your direction with full faith as well.
Yeah, that last part I think is mission critical, right? Like feeling the abundance, right? I mean, yeah, it starts with your thinking, of course. Like, I mean, you see something, you're like, that idea makes sense to me. And then suddenly, an idea of lack no longer makes sense. And whatever little form that takes is progress. But, I'm sure you can relate to this, Malik. Sometimes you hang around people and you can just feel the wealth. You can feel the abundance. You can feel the all giving and all loving hearts that are present. And really, that's what you're looking for. Now, I mean, you attract that to yourself in the sense that you've reached a level in your spiritual progress that you're ready to have that experience. But simultaneously, when it does arrive and you're consciously now aware of it, you also want to do whatever you need to do to embrace that and continue to evolve it, because it's a sure telling sign that you're on the right track. And simultaneously, it's not like, oh, now I've arrived and there's nothing more to do. Right? It's a dynamic thing. It's a consistent evolution. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that, Malik, like the idea of persistence behind the abundance mindset. It's not like, okay, now I have abundance mindset and now I'm a millionaire and I never need to work again. It's an ongoing thing. So what's your experience in that regard?
Yeah, I would say it's a continual process of growth and development. When you're on that path of abundance, you always have to be in that state of, trying to get better, personal development. And I think that that's one of the main things that actually helps a person to push forward, push past their common quitting point. And this is what I learned from one of my mentors, who's actually a multiple seven-figure earner is that you have to be willing to push past your common quitting point. And most people, when they get to that point, they actually give up. Or some people reach a certain level of success and then they tailspin and they go back into the rabbit hole. So you definitely have to be a person that perseveres, but you always have to be sharpening up your mindset, learning new things, learning new ways to create, learning new ways to invest, because it's not easy to keep money. It's even harder to keep money than it is to gain money in the first place. So these are the things that you always have to realize. And I know several millionaires that have made lots of money and they've lost it all. And because they had the abundance mindset and they also had some skill sets that they have acquired along the way, they were able to go back and do the same thing over again. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to acquire it back. But once you have the mindset and the skill set put together, you can go back out there and you can do the same thing all over again. And you can reacquire those assets or whatever it was that you had that gave you that certain status. And I think that this is very important to become financially literate and to get on a path where you're always seeking to learn more. This is the difference between a person that has poverty consciousness and a person that has the abundance mindset, is that the person that has this poverty consciousness, this person gets to a certain level of education and then they just stop right there. They're never looking to seek more or to get better or to benefit themselves in a greater way. But the person that has this abundance mindset, they know that they cannot stay where they are, because I think there's a saying that says that if you're not progressing, then you're actually dying, right? There's no such thing as staying in the same place. So you're either moving forward or you're falling behind, and falling behind is actually equivalent to death, right? So you have to kind of look at it in that type of way when you have this abundance mindset, and it's going to give you that strength to continue to push forward and to continue to work on yourself daily and just keep on getting better so that you can have more and more, and that you can acquire more so that you can give more. And this is what the abundance is all for.
Oh yeah, that's so true, Malik. The idea of utilizing everything for a positive purpose as it comes up, and it's all about growth. It's all about evolution. I mean, we do have elements of that in our upbringing, right? I mean, we go through the grade levels of school. It's really distorted, right? Like if you think about what is spiritual nature really all about, it's about expansion, about abundance, about living from your heart, about helping and supporting your brothers and sisters here on the planet. Of course, in the school system, a lot of that is left out, but there's still underlying that idea of making progress. So, it's in everyone's conditioning right from the core to grow, right? So, think about, why do people make the decision not to grow? Well, in general, the system itself doesn't accommodate them. And that's not, to say they're victims. I mean, they're still making the decision not to be creative enough to find a better way. And so, they stop learning. Lots of people end up using substances to suppress their creativity, because you have to. Like, we're creative beings. We're meant to thrive. We're meant to be enthusiastic about life. And if someone's not feeling that way, it's probably because they're using suppressants to suppress that energy. So whether it's, drugs or alcohol or whatever, and, or just, hanging out with people that, don't think at a higher level, or watching a lot of social media or news media or movies, and all those things can have their place to one degree or another. But if you're consistently bombarding your system with negative vibes, then it has a snowball effect, obviously. But simultaneously, there's always a spark of light in every being, in every living thing, in every seemingly non-living thing here on the planet. There's always that spark of God consciousness. So this is really the opportunity, if you're watching right now, to go within yourself and recognize that you can never be separate from the greatest aspect of who you are. You can never be separate from the power of God. And that is what empowers you to grow. Like, think about how a plant grows towards the sun, and the sun symbolizes the power of God in this sense, right? And sunlight powers our planet, powers our bodies, right? Part of the overall ingredient structure required. So, there's source power in all of that, though. And if you want to look at it as chi energy, but like, where's all this coming from? It's coming from source. And even if these are just reflections and metaphors for what source power truly is, it's still representative, and we can still open ourselves up to receive it. And the more we do, the more these permission slips magnetize into our reality. So whether it's just something as simple as water, or taking a a breath of fresh air, or sometimes it's something more complex, like this community that we've created with the Quantum Elite and Noble Goldman and the Vault community, where people are having a private membership, gaining access to really high level training, live group coaching, unheard of for, an incredible low rate. And, that requires more complexity, but it's still a reflection of that creativity, of that God nature. And these are the types of things that become possible when we're no longer suppressing our creativity.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. And if you guys are feeling what Matthew just said right now, go ahead and drop something in the chat because, what he's saying right now is something that is very, very powerful. I mean, most people, they're suppressing their own abilities. I mean, come on, you guys. This is so true. I mean, I know so many people that I've hung around with. I mean, ever since high school, they have not moved forward, right? And the reason why they haven't moved forward is because they've been suppressing their own powers within, and they haven't tapped into the true source. They haven't realized their own innate intelligence. They haven't, traveled on a higher level of consciousness or anything like that. And, this is one of the reasons why we have the Quantum Elite community, because we're here to help one another, to up level each other, and also to create a community where you're hanging around those people who have the same vibrations, who are vibrating really, really high and have a different consciousness around money, where it also, becomes attractive to us. It kind of just magnetizes itself to us, right? And this is what you want, right? And source energy lives within everything. It doesn't matter what it is, even within money, right? So you have to realize that there's really nothing too big for the source. There's nothing too big for God. And this is one thing that I learned from my mentor, like maybe a couple years ago. When I had that poverty mindset, I used to always set my expectations and my goals like super, super low. And one of my mentors told me, like, shoot for the moon and maybe you'll hang out on the stars, right? But most people are scared to shoot for the moon. And on the quantum space, this is what we do. We shoot for the moon and maybe we'll hang out on the stars, right? And it's a great place to hang out, right? And it feels good to associate yourself with other stars because stars are shining bright. Stars are radiant, and they also give you some of that same energy when you associate yourself with people like this. So I think it's very, very powerful to just realize, who are you hanging around with and what are you doing on a day to day? And, how are you helping yourself elevate? These are questions that you should definitely ask yourself on a day to day basis.
Amen. Yeah. And we've got some great comments coming in here from Justin, from Callie. We've got someone named Malik or Malik. We don't know how he pronounces his name.
That's my brother Malik.
House.
Yeah, he's a good brother, and I've known him for a long time. He just graduated recently. He's definitely a brother that has a great mindset, really, really sharp. He's coming out of Florida, and it's great to see you on this call, my brother.
Oh, that's fantastic. And we got another comment here from Callie. Shoot for the moon, and we are the star. That's incredible. We are the star. And there's a lot of potency in recognizing our power, and not in a way that separates us from one another, right? Because that's really what most people are doing. They're either putting themselves on a pedestal to others or below others, putting others on a pedestal. So, there's often that duality is either I'm not good enough or I'm better than. And it's two sides of the same coin. And people, depending on who you're interacting with is how you view it. So the goal is to, number one, be honest with yourself when you are perceiving life that way, because we all go through that. I mean, I can certainly raise my hand and say when I'm viewing things in that regard. But the key to it is like to open up with yourself and be like, okay, well, that's okay that I'm viewing it that way, but is that the most productive viewpoint? And there's obviously a more neutral, balanced way. So finding that within yourself, whatever your process is to do that. But that's what we're going to do right now. We'll do a gamma breath around this idea of the poverty consciousness, which is that dualistic thinking, right? Like some people are wrong, some people are right. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right being poor, and the reason I'm poor is because I'm right and I'm a victim and I want to be right about that. Like these are the programs that are running in people's minds versus the abundance mindset where it's recognizing, hey, I could either be right or I could be happy. I could just surrender all this to God, my source, and recognize in whatever way is most relevant for me in this moment that everything comes from within this inner kingdom and that there's nothing missing from this moment. And so from that platform, I can begin to discover whatever I need to know to move my life forward. So that's the intention. We're going to do this gamma breath right now. So everyone, as long as you're seated comfortably or laying down, go ahead and close your eyes. And then just tune in to this idea of abundance consciousness, the abundance mindset, and what it means for you, why it's relevant. And just breathe all the way in through your mouth, filling your lungs. In mouth out 3 seconds. In mouth in. And mouth out. Nose in. Nose out. Nose in. Nose out. Mouth in. Mouth out. Mouth in. Hold your breath. And keep your eyes closed for a moment and breathe out naturally. And as you're breathing normal, just notice the idea of activating money, activating that abundance mindset. What does that look like for you? How does it feel? Allow that to become your reality and just play it through your mind. See yourself in that picture. Play it through, play it through, play it through. See yourself winning at the game of life. See yourself partnering with really amazing people to collaborate with and grow your network. And just surrender to the idea of doing it with other people. It's impossible to be successful on your own. And so allow yourself to find your tribe. Allow yourself to find that quantum elite community that is the most amazing for you to connect with and join and transcend into higher levels of consciousness. Just allow yourself to have that. And now breathe with me again as we fully activate it and crystallize it into your brain neurology. Breathing all the way in through your mouth, filling your lungs. And mouth out 3 seconds. Mouth in. Mouth out. Nose in. Nose out. Nose in. Nose out. Mouth in. Mouth out. Mouth in. Holding your breath. And just feel that power, feel that flow, feel that internal knowing of abundance being in your environment, surrounding you, breathing normal. And open your eyes. Become present again to the moment. And just notice the difference. Notice that inner magnetism being activated. and just allow those opportunities that want to be with you, that want to manifest in your reality. They're waiting for you to open the door. Just allow yourself to open the door and receive them here and now.
Absolutely. That was a powerful gamma breath right there. And, one thing that people have to realize for all of you guys who are watching, I hope that you guys got benefit from that gamma breath first and foremost. But what I wanted to say here is that the imagination is something that's powerful. And a lot of us, we lose this at a very, very young age. And for myself, I didn't really grow up with a lot of imagination. There was no Santa Claus coming down the Christmas tree or coming down the chimney, right? So I already knew that, like, whatever presents were underneath the Christmas tree, they actually came from the Salvation Army in my household, right? So I knew where they were coming from. I had 7 brothers in a 2-bedroom apartment. There was very little left to imagination. But once I learned how to use these faculties, it's very, very powerful because the subconscious does not distinguish between lie and truth, right? That's what we have to realize. So whatever you're feeding into your subconscious, it actually becomes your reality. So if you're always telling yourself, I'm broke, I don't have enough, I can't afford this, I can't go here, I don't belong in this restaurant, all these type of things, then you're going to keep yourself at a certain type of level and you're never going to go beyond that. So you have to realize that the first step towards you having the abundance mindset is actually believing in everything that you can achieve, believing in your own abilities, right? And also imagining things and manifesting these things into reality because you truly believe that these things are going to happen. And why do you believe that they're going to happen? Because you're connected to the source. That's why you believe that they're going to happen. If you're fully dependent on the source and you trust and believe that anything is possible through that source energy, then anything truly is possible, right? But if you're always in a state where you're lacking and you're always, asking for things because you don't believe that it's possible for you to manifest these things into reality, then you're always going to suppress yourself. And this is very, very key. So these gamma breaths that we do, this is a way for you to actually, go into your own innate intelligence, for you to, picture things, put those into perspective, and then realize that this is your reality that you can actually bring forward into this existence. And once you start to realize that, then you can actually get past your subconscious blocks, your limiting beliefs, and also break through the glass or the invisible ceiling, right? Most people don't realize that you have an invisible ceiling, and that invisible ceiling could be the way that you were brought up, the money that you had when you were raised, the conditions that you were raised in, what type of house you grew up in, and also the amount of money that you ever made from working a job or whatever that may be, right? So these things create an invisible ceiling for you, which are really, really hard for you to break through. But what I'm here to tell you is that you can actually bust through those money blocks and you can get past those subconscious beliefs. As long as you truly believe that you can achieve it, there's nothing that you can't do.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And I think that gamma breath sparked a wave of creativity and deep thoughtfulness for you, Mount, because that was a great share, brother. And Callie was just saying the same thing, that how she loves this gamma breath because it really brings her to the present moment. And that's what it's all about. When you're in the present moment, that's when you're one with God. To whatever degree you need to be, that's when you can receive that source power and then stream it into your life. And that's all it is you open your heart, you open your mind to receive source, get the guidance, get the knowledge, get the action step, implement it, and then rinse and repeat. And it's sort of like your battery, right? Like sometimes that battery can be running low. I mean, that's why we sleep, right? To recharge our physical energy and our mental energy and our emotional energy. Where's that all coming from, though? Ultimately is source power. So when you take some time to breathe or meditate or get into a routine of really good habits, where you're, whether you're setting goals, whether you're exercising, whether you're drinking enough water, whether you're just monitoring your emotions and feelings and mood, there's a variety of ways to bring more awareness to what you're doing. And ultimately, you don't want to do it so that you're like a stickler and being a perfectionist about your life. You do it because it's an opportunity to surrender everything that comes up to God itself. And through that, it's given back to you in the form of inspiration, in the form of creativity, in the form of money as you need it to move your life forward, in the form of great relationships. But you have to be willing to give everything in the world up to that higher power. I'm not talking about sacrifice in a sense like burn it, I'm talking about energetically. Give up your attachments, give up your aversions, that emotional bond or that emotional disconnection. You have to be willing to give that up. And once you do, then you can receive the kingdom, and it's always been here, but you can only recognize that after you've let go of the things you thought you need to recognize what is really what you've always needed has always been here for you.
Absolutely. And, one key thing that I would like to state here is that there's some people that really don't feel the connection that they have with the source because maybe they're suppressing themselves, or maybe they just are always in that state of lack where they don't even feel worthy enough to connect with the source. But, it's mentioned inside of the scriptures that, God is closer to you than your own jugular vein, right? So that means God is basically within you. You have the spirit of God within yourself. So if you have that spirit of God and you're aware of it, and you have that connection with the source, then what you can realize is that there's nothing that you're truly not capable of, right? Anything that you want to accomplish, you can definitely accomplish. And that's why sometimes we go through great battles and we go through great struggles, but then we still overcome those struggles. We still come out victorious, right? And just when you thought that you probably would fail, you end up coming out as a victor. And this is just a sign of how you have that within yourself at all times, but you sometimes don't realize it until you hit rock bottom, until you hit your bare bones, or you're like really, really struggling. And then sometimes you pull it out miraculously and then you become victorious in the end. But what if you always had that connection? What if you always were aware and conscious of that connection with the source, and you realize that God is closer to you than your own jugular vein, and you are truly dependent on that source energy? Then I think that you would definitely be doing more and more to better yourself and further yourself, and just always staying in that mindset of abundance so that you can achieve great things.
Amen. Amen. So well said. And thank you, Callie, for dropping all this love here for us. And you've got even more here from you. Thank you. Exciting. It is an exciting conversation when you really accept God as your source, not in the religious sense, but just in that spiritual sense that it is everything that is. And you can see God in everything that is external. You can see God in your thoughts. The more you practice that, like an Olympic champion would practice, that's when you get the leverage, as Callie's saying here. You're leveraging what's already here, but you're using it for your growth. And this is what we're physically doing in the physical reality here inside of the Quantum Elite community, inside of Noble Goldman, is that we're leveraging one another's skills and talents and abilities and times, that we can have a greater impact, and we can also have more influence and therefore impact more people. And that leads to creating more income, but it's coming from a purposeful place. So it's about having that positive influence, that purposeful impact, and that sustainable ongoing income that's going to create a legacy for years to come. And that's how we end up feeding every human being on the planet, bringing them clean water, bringing them shelter, bringing them basic income, bringing them basic education. Every human being needs the fertile environment to thrive. And for a long time now, it's been withheld. But now in this age of Aquarius and this golden age that we're entering, and that's already begun, we're continuing to push the wagon forward there, so to speak. But that's not even a good analogy. We're not pushing anything forward. What we're really doing is aligning with the essence that's here. We're aligning with this source power that's already here, and we're just riding the wave, and we're on the leading edge of it. We're being ambassadors to open the gateway for this, and that's what we invite you to join us with. So reach out. Thank you for your comments. Keep them coming, and definitely get in touch with us regarding the Quantum Elite community. We can hook you up with a free account to get some great goal setting tools, get in alignment with your vision and your mission and your goals, and track your progress. We have some absolutely phenomenal free resources for you. So just drop it in the chat that you're looking for free resources. Just drop free resources in the comments, and we'll get that over to you. And we look forward to being your partners in the game of life, because that's really what this is all about.
Absolutely. It's the abundance game. Let's win at the game of life together. And, I personally want to see more people in the top 3%. I think it's definitely unfair that 3% of the world control 97% of the world's income. So it's time for us to change that. And that's one of the missions with the Quantum Elite community. And I know that a lot of people in the personal development space, they're actually inside of the network marketing industry, and those numbers are staggering. I mean, the average person is not even making $500 per month, right? So what if we can actually help you, get past those money blocks? What if we can help you make more than an additional $500 per month, or whatever it may be, whatever your income goals are, right? And not from us doing anything spectacular, but helping you tap into your own abilities and your own innate intelligence, right? And that's what's powerful.
All right, that's great, Malcolm. We've got our first taker here. Thanks for stepping up to the plate, Josh. So one of us will reach out to you and get you hooked up with that. And this is what it's all about. The more you give, the more you open yourself to receive. And that's what being all loving and all giving is about here. And that's what Noble Goldman is all about, paying it forward with the golden rule, treating one another the way we prefer to be treated, or the way we would want to be treated, energetically speaking, emotionally speaking, right? What does that really mean? Be kind to one another, be courteous, be respectful, right? If I need support, then you support me. If you need support, I support you. That's what we're doing here. So join us. And we're in collaboration, the Quantum Elite community and Noble Goldman, a combined force. And here's Callie just encouraging Josh to tap into some free resources. So it's here and now, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for joining us.
Bye for now.